This ghetto thug, DijonaiCarrington Carrington on your screen, she cannot play another WNBA game ever again. This ghetto thug you see on your screen, DijonaiCarrington Carrington, posted white privilege and tagged the Indiana Fever after she got ejected after raking Sophie Cunningham across the head. When you can literally injure yourself and get injured in multiple ways, DijonaiCarrington Carrington raked Sophie Cunningham across the head. It got reviewed by the officials. They ended up and deemed it as a flagrant foul too and ejected her from the game.
Something happened during today's WNBA matchup between the Chicago Sky and Indiana Fever that immediately caught everyone's attention. A moment on the court unfolded that has fans talking and asking questions. So what exactly happened during the game? Let's not waste any more time. First, take a look at the video clip for yourself. Once you've seen it, we'll break down exactly what happened and move on from there.
He was an absolute steal for DijonaiCarrington Carrington. Here's Cunningham up ahead of the field, lays it in, plus the foul, and then Cunningham gets into the face of DijonaiCarrington Carrington.
One play was enough to ignite another WNBA controversy. Sophie Cunningham attacked the basket on a fast break when DijonaiCarrington Carrington came from behind and made high contact, sending Cunningham to the floor. Carrington was ejected, and after review, the foul was upgraded to a flagrant 2. But the controversy continued after Carrington left the court.
What's going on in the W?
Hold on.
Take a walk with me, take a walk with me, take a walk with me. There is craziness going on in the WNBA. DijonaiCarrington Carrington tweeted out white privilege from the locker room of a game that she was playing in. Get this, she fouled Sophie Cunningham hard. Sophie Cunningham, obviously a white person, fouls her hard. Flagrant 2, gets ejected, goes to the locker room and tweets out white privilege in the middle of the game. Now here's the kicker to me. A flagrant 2 has to be contact that can lead to an injury.
Carrington later posted on social media, suggesting the situation involved white privilege. Suddenly, a basketball play became a much bigger debate involving race, officiating, player treatment, social media, and the growing tension around Sophie Cunningham. But questions remain. Was Carrington simply reacting emotionally after the ejection, or making a broader point about player treatment? And did her post make the controversial incident even more difficult to defend? Let's break it all down.
Carrington is a dirty player, probably the dirtiest player in the league. And then she has the audacity to go online right after her ejection and claim that she got ejected because of racism. She definitely learned well from Angel Reese. Whenever something goes against you, just pull out that race card. I think she's jealous of my natural blonde hair. She'll never have this hair. I literally got clotheslined in the air, and this clown has to turn it into race.
Was it simply an aggressive basketball play, or did Carrington cross the line? Could she face additional disciplinary action from the league? And could this incident affect her future in the WNBA? Following the incident, Carrington was reportedly suspended by the league. Cunningham wasn't going to pretend nothing happened. After the contact, she confronted Carrington, but teammates and staff stepped in before things escalated. Cunningham later described the foul as unnecessary, while making it clear she didn't want the situation to become bigger. In professional sports, emotions can explode within seconds. One player feels disrespected, another feels targeted, officials make a decision, and fans immediately choose sides. Cunningham's response was essentially that she wouldn't let the incident take over everything. Online, however, the reaction became a completely different story.
Of kind of dirty foul, so to speak. This is the same player that poked CaitlinClark in the eye with her long-ass fingernails last year. Take a look.
This clip is going viral of CaitlinClark getting poked in the eye by DijonaiCarrington Carrington. It happened in the first quarter when Clark tried passing the ball to her teammate Aaliyah Boston, but Carrington poked Clark in the eye while trying to deflect the pass. No foul was called, but Clark had to take a second to regain her composure. In the third quarter, Dijonai was defending Caitlin again when Caitlin hit Dijonai in the head, knocking out one of her contacts. No foul was called, but Dijonai had to take a second to put her contact back in.
Here's another important point. DijonaiCarrington has previously been involved in several hard and controversial moments involving CaitlinClark, and now this flagrant 2 foul on Sophie Cunningham has raised even more questions. Many WNBA fans are demanding stronger disciplinary action when players repeatedly engage in dangerous or overly physical play, especially when those actions put other athletes at risk. Some commentators have even called for Carrington to be suspended. The big question now is whether the WNBA will take serious action or whether this controversy will eventually fade away. After being ejected, Carrington posted white privilege in connection with the Indiana Fever. That single post immediately changed the conversation because fans were no longer debating only whether the foul was intentional. Now, people were also discussing whether race played a role in the decision. But this is where we need to slow down, because there is a major difference between saying Carrington made that post and saying officials ejected her because of race. The first is documented. The second has not been established. Cunningham herself rejected the idea that the call was racially motivated, pointing out that she had previously been ejected for a similar type of play. That doesn't automatically settle every debate about officiating, but it does make the situation more complicated than simply claiming the league punished Carrington because Cunningham is white. There is no evidence establishing that, and that's important because social media often turns an argument into a conclusion before all the facts are available. That's exactly why the internet became divided. Some fans looked at the sequence and said Carrington committed the foul, was ejected, and then blamed everyone else. Others viewed it differently, arguing that Carrington was expressing frustration over what she believed was unequal treatment. Those are two completely different interpretations, and neither should automatically be treated as established fact. Calling someone a victim can itself become part of the problem because we don't know everything Carrington was feeling in that moment. She had just been ejected from a high-profile game. She had watched the play get upgraded after replay, was leaving the court while the crowd reacted, and then made an emotionally charged social media post. Athletes are human. They get frustrated, they react, and sometimes they say things they might phrase differently later. But being emotional doesn't automatically make someone right. And being wrong about something doesn't automatically mean every feeling behind it was fake. That's the nuance social media usually removes. Now let's address another part of this story directly. You've probably seen online claims suggesting that Carrington threatened Cunningham through social media. That's a serious allegation, but based on the credible reporting available, it should not be presented as an established fact. What has been clearly reported is Carrington's controversial social media statement following the ejection. That's documented. A direct threat toward Cunningham is a different claim, and it should not be repeated without reliable evidence. This distinction matters because once a story includes words like threatened, attacked, targeted, or hated, audiences naturally assume something much more serious happened. If there isn't evidence for it, repeating the claim as fact can turn commentary into misinformation. So for this story, we're sticking to what can actually be supported. And honestly, there is already more than enough drama without inventing anything. There's another major reason this incident exploded. Sophie Cunningham has become one of the WNBA's most discussed players away from the basketball court. Recently, Cunningham made strong public comments about transgender athletes competing in women's sports. Her comments generated significant attention, support, and criticism. That controversy has followed her into games. There have been protests and public demonstrations surrounding the issue, and the WNBA has already dealt with incidents connected to the broader debate. So when Carrington's foul happened, it didn't occur in a vacuum. People were already watching Cunningham. People already had opinions about her, and people already had opinions about Carrington. That's why one basketball play became something much larger. Under different circumstances, the same contact might have generated a few hours of sports debate. Instead, it became another chapter in an ongoing cultural argument. This is the environment professional athletes have to deal with now. The game doesn't end when the final whistle blows. The second players leave the court, millions of people online become unofficial commentators. Clips get reposted. Slow-motion videos appear. Screenshots circulate. Fans analyze body language, look for previous incidents, and suddenly, an event that lasted 2 seconds becomes a 24-hour debate. Some fans defended Carrington, others defended Cunningham. Some criticized the officials. Some criticized Carrington's post. Others brought up unrelated controversies involving both players. And that's where situations like this become dangerous for everyone involved. Once social media chooses a side, every new piece of information gets interpreted through that side. If you support Carrington, you may see one thing. If you support Cunningham, you may see something completely different. If you dislike one of the teams, you're probably seeing something else entirely. The basketball itself almost becomes secondary. Now let's ask the question everyone is asking. Was it a dirty foul? That's ultimately something viewers can debate, but the officials made their judgment very clearly. They reviewed the play and determined that the contact met the standard for a flagrant 2. Cunningham was attempting a layup when Carrington made high contact from behind, and because the contact was considered unnecessary and excessive, the officials ejected her. Fever coach Stephanie White supported the decision, while also indicating that she didn't necessarily believe Carrington acted with malicious intent. That distinction matters because dangerous contact and malicious intent are not always the same thing. A player can make a reckless or excessive play without deliberately thinking about seriously hurting someone. Professional basketball moves extremely quickly. Players make split-second decisions. Sometimes those decisions are bad. Sometimes they're overly aggressive. Sometimes they result in serious consequences. That's why the rules exist. If there is one part of this entire situation that may follow Carrington longer than the foul itself, it could be the social media post. Why? Because the foul can be judged through basketball rules. The post opens an entirely different debate. Once you publicly suggest that race influenced an officiating decision, you're making a serious accusation. And serious accusations require serious evidence. Without that evidence, people are going to challenge the claim. That's exactly what happened. Cunningham rejected the idea. Fans began arguing. Sports media picked it up, and the original foul suddenly became secondary to the conversation surrounding the post. This is the modern athlete's dilemma. You have a massive platform and can respond instantly, but once you hit post, you don't control what happens next. Your words can become headlines, clips, arguments, and permanent pieces of an online conversation long after the emotion that caused you to write them has disappeared. It's also important not to turn Cunningham into a perfect hero simply because she was on the receiving end of this particular foul. She's a competitive professional athlete. She's had her own controversial moments, and her public comments have generated plenty of debate. She's also previously been involved in a high-profile flagrant foul situation herself. So if we're going to demand consistency from Carrington, we should demand consistency from everyone. The standard shouldn't be that our favorite player did something so it was automatically fine. The standard should be whether the action was within the rules. If it wasn't, that same standard should apply regardless of who committed the foul. That's how sports remain sports. And perhaps the most interesting part of this entire story isn't Carrington or Cunningham. It's the environment surrounding the WNBA right now. The league is more visible than ever. Players have larger platforms. The audience is bigger, and every controversy spreads instantly. That means players are no longer competing only against the opponent in front of them. They're competing under the microscope of millions of viewers. Every foul can become a debate. Every facial expression can become a meme. Every social media post can become national news, and every disagreement can become a cultural battle. That's a huge opportunity for the league, but it's also a huge responsibility because the more attention the WNBA receives, the more carefully players, coaches, officials, and fans have to handle these moments. Now, the big question is what happens to Carrington. The league could review the incident and determine whether additional discipline is appropriate. But whatever happens officially, the social media debate isn't going away immediately. That's because this isn't just about one foul anymore. It's about trust. Do players trust the officiating? Do fans believe the league applies rules consistently? Do athletes feel comfortable expressing their opinions publicly? And when an athlete believes they were treated unfairly, what's the right way to respond? Those questions don't have simple answers. But one thing is certain. The WNBA doesn't need these controversies to become personal. Competitive intensity is part of professional sports. Arguments happen, hard fouls happen, and emotions happen. But there has to be a line, and that line should apply to everyone. Maybe the biggest lesson from this entire situation is actually very simple. You can be angry without making an accusation you can't prove. You can disagree with a referee. You can believe a call was unfair. You can defend yourself. You can even criticize the league. But once the argument becomes about race, discrimination, or intentional targeting, the standard of evidence needs to become much higher. And the same goes for fans. If you see a viral clip, don't immediately assume you know someone's intentions. You saw a moment. You didn't see inside their head. You don't know exactly what they were thinking. And you certainly shouldn't use a sports controversy as an excuse to attack another person online. That applies to Carrington supporters, Cunningham supporters, and everybody watching from the sidelines. So what really happened? DijonaiCarrington committed a high foul on Sophie Cunningham during a fast break opportunity. The officials reviewed the play and upgraded it to a flagrant 2. Carrington was ejected. Cunningham reacted angrily. Then Carrington posted the controversial white privilege message on social media. That post created an entirely new controversy, but claims that Carrington directly threatened Cunningham online should not be repeated as fact without reliable evidence. And that's an important distinction because this story is already dramatic enough. The real question isn't whether we can make the controversy sound even bigger. The real question is whether we can talk about it honestly. Basketball is supposed to be competitive. Players are supposed to be passionate. Fans are supposed to debate. But when the final buzzer sounds, there should still be room for accountability, respect, and perspective. Carrington and Cunningham will eventually move on to the next game. The fans will find another controversy. Another clip will go viral. Another argument will dominate social media. But the standard we use to judge these moments is what actually matters. So what do you think? Was Carrington's flagrant 2 ejection justified? Was her social media response understandable frustration, or did it make the situation worse? And should athletes be more careful about making serious accusations immediately after an emotional moment? Let us know what you think in the comments.